Theodore Alballard felt the ground shake from the force of a massive explosion that he heard moments later. He called out to the soldier manning the lookout tower, who had just narrowly avoided being knocked off, to see if he was okay. The lookout called back, "Aye, sir, I'm fine. The railing held me. Can't say the same for the fort, though." Having confirmed he was safe, the lookout began describing the scene he saw through his looking glass. The explosion they just felt was the left wall of the fort being almost completely obliterated, as a horde of nightmare creatures native to this place spilled through the opening and attempted to slay the occupants of the forward base. Theodore had been left in command of this observation post just 1 week after graduating from the King's Officer Academy. Marched off through a portal to the front lines like most of his classmates. He didn't know where he was. The sky was a permanent blood red here, and the native creatures were as dangerous as they were hideous. Reflecting on a heated conversation he had with one classmate on graduation day when the assignments were handed out, he felt he owed someone an apology if he came out of this deployment alive, and said to himself, "I am sorry, Darendal. You were right." The lookout brought Theodore back from his reflection with an excited update. "Sir, our troops appear to be staging a counterattack. They have formed a heavy cavalry unit into a wedge formation and are cutting a path through the foul beasts." "Yes, give them hell, boys. That's more like it. Oh no, what is that thing?" Theodore saw the lookout crouch down and grasp the railing. Moments later, another massive explosion. "Sorry, sir. I think I found out what obliterated the fort wall before. It's like a giant war machine made out of flesh that pukes out fireballs," said the lookout. "It's okay. Keep me posted and do what you have to do to stay safe," answered Theodore. Theodore went off to see what he could do about making the observation post more defensible, calling everyone at the post to attention. Apart from the lookout and himself, he had 1 engineer, 1 mage, 20 infantrymen, and 10 yeomen from Ugrove and their captain, a silver-haired elf of an undetermined age, as well as 1 communications officer who he referred to as the bird guy. Since that was how he was supposed to communicate back to HQ, tie a letter to a bird and let it fly back. Theodore's orders were to hold this outpost and wait for the nearby energy fluctuation to stabilize, and then report back by bird what came through. According to the Archmages, these fluctuations are nearly always some sort of portal or gateway forming, and it is important to know the specifics for strategic reasons. Theodore addressed the troops. "Thank you all. It has been a pleasure working with you this last week. Those explosions you just felt were the forward base coming under heavy attack. The left wall was breached, and it looks like all their cavalry have just been wiped out. We have nowhere near the defensive capabilities of that fort, but we need to hold out long enough to finish our task of assessing the fluctuation. Any suggestions?" The engineer spoke up first. "I could take the infantry in 2 shifts and start building some earthworks that will help us against any ground-based troops they may throw at us." The archer captain spoke next. "We have a huge supply of arrows, just not enough archers to shoot any sort of meaningful concentrated volley, but we can certainly pick off many single targets. It's a start. Anything that will buy time or slow the enemy will help. Wait, don't you outrank me as a captain, Theodore asked the silver-haired elf. No, there was an accord signed between the humans and the elves of Yew Grove long ago. I can only train and command archers from Yew Grove, but cannot obtain a human military rank, said the captain. Confusing, but if you say so, said Theodore. It makes perfect sense, really. I am fine with it. Once you realize that I also train these archers, grandfathers' grandfathers. They would have needed to invent new ranks for me by now, replied the elf. Sir, good and bad news, shouted the lookout. Report, please, lookout, Theodore responded. Well, they drove off or killed all the attackers, but I'm not sure if there is anything left of the fort. It's just a huge cloud of dust and smoke in that direction, said the lookout. Okay, just keep watching. Let me know if anything changes, said Theodore. Sir, we have incoming, unknown if friend or foe, said the lookout. Theodore motioned to the assembled troops. They moved to what little flimsy defensive positions they currently had and awaited further instructions. Thank the gods, banners of Hyrikith, the survivors from the fort, but they don't look too good, said the lookout. The troops stood down from their ready positions and prepared to receive the survivors. Some of the yeomen and the captain had some medical skills. They were fortunately able to patch up one of the survivors who happened to be a priest. Enough for them to be able to start healing the more seriously wounded, whilst stabilizing others, setting up a rudimentary triage system. One of the survivors found Theodore and said, "Congratulations on your field promotion, Commander," and handed him the commander's gorget, a fine piece of armor featuring the coat of arms of Hyrikith. Hyrikith. Kingdom, city, mountain range, and the highest peak of said range, Mount Hyrikith. Hyrikith is a sprawling kingdom. The population is primarily human, but not entirely. There are some scattered elven enclaves and 2 whole dwarven city-states within the borders of the territory considered to be the Kingdom of Hyrikith, where there are elves and humans in the same vicinity. Half-elves are inevitable. The lure of the exotic, so to speak. The kingdom is in trouble. Outside the capital, a general state of lawlessness is dramatically on the rise. There's a heightened level of distrust between the commoners and the nobles, and the king seems to be doing nothing about it. However, there is a man with a plan to save Hyrikith, and he is recruiting. The opportunities are endless for anyone seeking adventure that is willing to do their bit to help. Before we get to that, though, let's take a quick look at the neighbors. Over the mountain range that forms the northern border lies an area referred to as the Northern Reaches. If you ask the average citizen of Hyrikith what the Northern Reaches are best known for, they would likely tell you it is famous for 2 things: barbarians and the fur trade. The so-called barbarians are one of the human groups that make their home over the mountains. They are exactly what comes to mind when someone uses that term. Large, muscular warriors with a preference for wearing lots of fur on any unexposed flesh, carrying big weapons and rather uneducated sounding to the refined ear of those who's further south of them. Their speech does sound rough when they converse in the common tongue, This opinion is likely exaggerated, though, by the fact that encounters with barbarians tend to be in taverns, since most that do journey further south than the trading posts, near the Merchant's Pass, are adventurers looking to spend some of their loot on ale. The barbarians are technically the more civilized humans of the northern reaches, with permanent villages and agriculture. The other human group in the northern reaches are the nomadic horse people, known to be excellent horse archers, but really only known to those that have been to the northern reaches or spent extensive periods of time talking to barbarians. Traditionally, these two peoples have not gotten along well. The other people of the northern reaches are literally horse people, centaurs. They live in a forest known as the Haunted Forest. The barbarians and the horse people know to give this place a wide berth. To the west of Hirikith is the territory of the Tosian Empire, longtime foe of the kingdom. Currently, relations are in a state of peace for a generation or two, since the accords were signed at the end of the last Great War. Much further west, beyond the shores of the Tosian Empire and over an ocean, lies the fabled desert kingdom of Jakovia and its trading partner, the fertile Misharu region. If one were to ask in any tavern what is south of Hirikith's territory, they would likely form the opinion that there is not much. Many places you will be told that it's mostly forest, or see someone answer with a shrug. Except if you happen to be in Melford, then they can actually show you. But that is a story for another time. The eastern edge of Hirikith is the shoreline. There are ports here for those that may be traveling to or trading with the eastern continent, an incredibly unimaginative name, but it is at least something both Hirikith and Tosia have always agreed upon. Hirikith City is the capital of the empire, nestled up against the imposing Mount Hirikith, built in a series of concentric fortified rings, with the inner ring housing the keep, the next ring housing the cathedrals of most of the continent's paladin orders, then a ring for important nobles' houses, then lesser nobles and merchants, etc. The further out the ring is from the center, the lower the social status of those living there. Of course, for every person living in the big city, there are many others living in small villages and towns dotted around the countryside. Small villages tend to usually be named after a significant landmark, perhaps the area's main industry, or even after a significant historical event that occurred on the site. One such town is Springview, and this is where our story will begin.